If you're looking for a class that lives up to the quote of float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, then the Thief class is the one for you. In Dragon Dogma 2, this is sort of like a brand new class, but not really. We're going to break down everything you need to know about the Thief class, the pros, the cons, which if he should be a pawn or if he should be a main. In addition to that, if he is going to be the best in class when it comes to solo play, and what are the best aspects of deciding to play as a thief or deciding to have a pawn as a thief as your partner. So if you guys are excited for Dragon Dogma 2, hit that like button and let's jump right into it, guys. So for those of you who played the original game, you're going to be very familiar with this class, which is because you did have an option to have a Strider class within the first version of Dragon Dogma. Now, one thing to keep in mind, there is going to be a big difference from that class to this particular class, because in Dragon Dogma, the first game, the thief was able to have daggers and was able to have a bow and arrow, or like an archer. This time they divided both classes. There's a specific thief class and there's specific archer class, which we will cover as well if that's the route you want to go. So what exactly playstyle are you looking for if you decide to play as a thief? So the thing with the thief, just like the quote, sting like a butterfly, float like a bee, is the fact that you are going to be very fast when it comes to attacking the enemy, and you're going to be super quick to get out. The thief primarily focuses on his best attributes, being able to do a lot of damage with burst melee damage and be able to move out of the way as quickly as he possibly can. I personally feel like he is the best character when it comes to mounting onto a monster and dealing a good amount of damage and then dipping without taking any problem. Unfortunately, in the previous game, the thief lacked a little bit of area of effect damage, but I think this time around with some of the skills we're going to be taking a look at, I think he's going to shine pretty well. I'm kind of glad they separated him from being an archer and being a striker to just being one main thing, because this lets him focus primarily on his main attribute of being a high mobile character and being able to strike really fast, dealing a lot of damage, not in a single blow, but in multiple blows. Now, the great thing is, as you level up as a thief, you'll be able to improve the damage that your strikes do, and you will also be able to improve your mobility. Now, there's one particular skill that I really like. One is called Nimble Dodge, which will give you the ability to climb onto enemies really fast or monsters really fast. This is why I think he's going to be the best one when it comes to this. And when you guys are on top of the monster, you're going to be able to deal a ton of damage with your daggers. Now, one thing to keep in mind, guys, is that the thief is going to be restricted to daggers as their main weapon. He won't have access to a bow later on, so you want to keep that in mind. Now, let's take a look at his core elements. So for his core strikes or his core skills are the following. We have Crave. So in the original game, if you guys remember, Crave was one of the core skills for the Strider class, which would allow you to trigger continuous attacks with the dagger, so very similar to this. We have Scarlet's Kiss, which is going to allow you to unleash a flurry of attacks or slashes as you go launch forward. So this is going to be a very nice area of effect type of move that you're able to do consecutively. We have Swift Step, which is going to allow you to move quickly away from enemies after an attack. So you're going to be able to and then use the Swift Step to move out of the way, kind of like a dodge if you keep that in mind. Then we have Twin Fangs, which is going to allow you to do short stabs from your blade, one right after the other one. So it's like a quick succession of an attack. Now, let's take a look at what's going to stand out for the thief, which is the skills that you're able to use within your weapon. Here's the things where things get really, really interesting. We have Binding Wind, which is going to allow you to dash past the target with blades extended. Really, really cool. And it's going to do a couple of slashes when using the same attack constantly. So if you're using the Biting Wind multiple times, you'll be able to, which is really, really cool. Now, this one's the one I really, really like, and I feel like I'm going to be using this one quite a lot, which is called Enkindled Blades. What this is going to allow you to do is it's going to have you bring the blades together and ignite them with flames for a short time, which you will be able to deploy, the fire element upon your enemy while you're, pretty much clinging on top of foes or monsters. Really, really cool. Now, the next one we have is actually another one that's really, really cool, and I just love the animation on this one. It's called Helm Splitter. What this is going to allow you to do is going to allow you to leap up in the air, and while you're going to be in the air, it's going to dive down and start spinning with blades extended. And the great thing about this is you're going to want to do this like if you're like in a high area altitude and you see an enemy below you, you're going to want to perform this, which is going to allow you to have a more powerful damage when you're actually doing this. So really, really cool. ability, and I think a lot of people are going to be using that, like, spamming it, because it just looks really cool. All right, so the next one we have, which is a really cool addition, one is called Powder Charge, and what this is going to allow you to do, guys, is going to allow you to place kind of like a mine. So you're going to be placing an explosive on the ground at the at towards the enemy or whoever you want to detonate the explosive from, and this will detonate moments after, or you can decide to detonate it yourself, which is actually a pretty cool one. It's kind of like having like a quick grenade or like, a little mine, which is pretty cool. Now, this is the one I think that makes the Steve stand out, and it gives them the ability of having a different playstyle than the other players, because it gives you that stealth playstyle. You have a weapon ability called Shadow Cloak. This is going to enable you to blend into the surroundings. So if you're in a grassy area, you're going to blend in there, and it's going to make you very difficult to be able to detect from hostile targets, which will give you the ability to use any of the other abilities that we have to unleash damage without them even noticing that you're there. Now, one thing you want to keep track on this one, guys, if you are going to be using it, it does consume stamina while it's active, so you're going to want to make sure you gauge your stamina correctly. The next one, which ties in perfectly to our stealth play, is Smoke Screen. This is going to allow you to throw a smoke bomb that's going to blind the targets that are near you, and it's a really good way to counter attack or get away or just leave an area without being detected, and can also be employed when you're climbing an enemy or a monster midair, which will blind the enemy and that monster. So it kind of gives you a nice little combo there. All right, so now we took a look at the skills. We took at the weapon skills. Let's talk about what I believe are the strengths and weaknesses of when you decide to play with a thief. And this should kind of give you a better idea if you want to play him as your pawn or as your main. So the great thing about his strengths, guys, it gives you the ability of playing the game very differently. We're giving you that stealth ability. I personally don't see much other characters with the stealth possibility, so I do love that about him. Very interesting if you're going to be running around stealthy and killing people. Really cool. He has really high mobility. I think he has the highest mobility out of all the other vocations, making him fast and nimble. He's going to be the best one when it comes to climbing big enemies and monsters and being able to do crit shots on these monsters. He has a really, really high damage when it comes to dealing powerful damages in a single enemy. So really, really good there. Now, let's talk about the things he's not so good at. He's going to be a little bit squishy, guys. His defense is extremely, extremely low. He's not going to be able to be doing a ton of damage from a long distance. That's another thing that I feel like you don't have that range. So if you decide to go with him, I'm going to tell you who you probably want to pair with him the better, along the way. And of course, unfortunately, he doesn't have too much AoE damage with the particular weapon skills and the particular core skills. Unless we find another way to actually get more AoE effect, he is going to be lacking on that, on killing multiple enemies. These are going to be mostly 1v1s. All right, so now let's discuss pawn or main. So I personally think that the thief is a really good main character if you want to play stealthy, if you want to play solo, and if you want to pair this with a character that's you could pair it with two characters that I feel like are going to feel very good with this one. So it's definitely a mage, because you are going to need those healies, and if you want to know if the mage is the one you want to pick, make sure you check out the video. And I think the fighter will pair very well with this, due to the fact that the fighter will be able to aggro the enemy and call all the people to go hit him, and then have the thief do a lot of critical damage and kind of sneak around the battlefield. I feel like the archer would fit here good, but I don't think the archer was going to be so fundamental when it comes to the thief if you decide to main him. Now, if you decide to use him as a pawn, this is where things get really interesting, because I think as a pawn, he is going to be really good for a mage main, archer main, and even a fighter main. I think he fits in perfectly into all of these, just because he has the ability of having powerful melee damages as opposed to the other classes. I personally feel like when it comes to fighting monsters and just having a character that does a lot of damage, the thief is going to be the one I feel like a lot of people lean into. And I personally feel that he's going to be the one that the majority of the people go with. I just feel with the abilities that he has and being able to seek out the weak spots and cripple opponents and dealing with large monsters, he's going to be the one that's going to be like the main go-to one, Now, one interesting thing that I didn't mention as part of his skills, his name is a thief, and with that thief ability, he's actually able to steal stuff from other pawns. Okay, so if you see a pawn walking around the area, he'll be able to take advantage of this and steal once you unlock one of that skill, as you level up your character. And the great thing about this is that you'll be able to get some really rare, valuable items from this thievery, right? I don't even know if that's a word, but I mean, you probably will. Now, remember, guys, if you are planning to use this as a pawn, you won't be able to use a hybrid vocation. So you want to make sure you keep that in mind. If you're thinking you're going to want to use the hybrid vocation, you're going to have to select them as your main character. Overall, I think the thief is going to be the one that's going to be used the most. And I want to know from you guys, are you going to pick the thief? And if you are, who are you going to pair it with? Mage, archer, or fighter? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you're still on the fence, undecided who to pick, make sure you guys check out this video that's popping up right now, going over the mage, going over the fighter, going over the archer, so you guys know exactly who to go with and who will fit your playstyle. So if you like to be stealthy, like to be invisible, like to deal a lot of damage, and just like to be on top of the monsters and just take them out and do a lot of crits, the thief is the one for you. I hope you guys are enjoying our Dragon Dogma content. If you are, do me a huge favor, guys, hit that like, subscribe, turn those notifications so you guys won't miss when our videos go live. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.